So, welcome to the program, Risa Groux. Welcome to A Voice and Beyond. You are a functional nutritionist, a certified autoimmune coach, and author of the new book, FOODFRAME Diet is a Four-Letter Word. Well, it's such an honor having you here. How are you going?
Thank you so much. It is really great to be here. I'm doing fantastic.
Awesome. So, not only do you deal with autoimmune disease, but you also deal with a number of other issues such as diabetes, cancer, digestion, thyroid, and hormone imbalances, just to name a few. And this is all really interesting to me, and I believe that we can all be better educated when it comes to our health and nutrition and living a more improved quality of life. So I have a million questions for you. So I hope we get through them all. But I just want to start with your background, or I just want to know what is the difference between a functional nutritionist and a traditional nutritionist or dietitian?
Yeah, great question. So I started off, I was always curious about food and nutrition, always. I grew up in a house where my mom was always trying to lose that last 5 or 10 pounds or just 5 or 10 pounds. And she would call some foods like bad. And I was thinking, why are those foods bad? They taste pretty good to me. And then there would be good foods and fattening foods. And I was just so confused growing up as a kid about food. I mean, we have food on the table. Why are some good and why are some bad? And so my grandmother was doing the same thing. And so it was this diet culture that I was watching as I grew up, and women having this bizarre relationship with food. I didn't see the men in my home having that same relationship with food. But I started to read every book on nutrition my whole life, pretty much. And after college, I went into sports marketing, but I kept reading things on nutrition. I had my babies, and then I read everything. I couldn't get enough. I became a clinical nutritionist, which basically is a very wide definition. You could be a clinical nutritionist and tell people what to eat or help them with their food plans, or really do a myriad of things. A
Mhm.
registered dietitian is somebody who really follows more of the food pyramid that the government gives you. So they're focusing more on a low fat diet. There's some carbs and sugar, but just a
Mhm.
little bit will be fine.
Mhm.
And they're working more in hospitals and clinical settings. And then when I became a clinical nutritionist, I realized, gee, I would put everybody on the same kind of food program. And I realized everybody wasn't thriving. I'd have this group that was thriving tremendously, but scratching my head, why are these other people not thriving? And it
Mm.
took me a while to figure it out, but I realized that not one diet type fits all, right?
Yes,
And that we're
yes.
all unique individuals. I always say genetics load the gun and your lifestyle and environment pull the trigger. And so what I started doing was that's how I created my food frame methodology, and realizing that people should be eating according to what their current health status is. And at that time, when I was doing my food frame and people were thriving, once we figured that out, then I started looking at labs, because how do you know somebody's health status if you don't know what their blood labs look like, or their stool test? So I started learning functional nutrition, and functional nutrition guidelines they're the same as medical functional medicine guidelines. And so I just did a deep dive into learning how to read blood work. And I've had amazing doctors mentor me, and I'm grateful for that. And then I do an extensive stool test panel to see what is going on in the gut. Are we producing our own digestive enzymes? Do we have some yeast or overgrowth of candida? Or do we have parasites? Do we have pathogens, H. pylori, C. diff? I can go on and on and on. How do we do with gluten? Do we
Mm.
make our own digestive enzymes? Things like that. So I learned how to read all those things, and that's what I do now. Is I do functional nutrition. So it's a little deeper. Well, it's a lot deeper than clinical
Yes,
nutrition. I
yes.
do a lot more than just tell people what to eat or what's best for them. I also look at labs, and I look at inflammation. I look at all markers of your thyroid. I'm looking at blood sugar dysregulation, liver, kidney, gallbladder, and a breakdown of your white blood cells. So I have a really good idea of what's going on for you.
Wow. So who's your typical clients? Like, how do they find you? Are they referred to you by a doctor?
I have a ton of doctors who refer to me, a ton. I
Mhm.
have an allergist who refers a lot of patients that they kind of get stumped with. Because again, I mean, they referred one a couple of years ago, and another one just recently, but the one a couple of years ago was so highly allergic to everything, they didn't know what to do. And so I tested her for leaky gut. And, you know, at the time the lab went to 107 and her number was 1050. That's
Oh
the
my
highest.
gosh.
She had
Wow.
gaping holes in her intestinal lining. We only have one layer of epithelial cells protecting our intestinal lining. So when that is destroyed or impaired, it is critical. Nothing's going to change until you repair that.
Mhm.
So the doctor didn't have the tools to repair that. And so didn't even have the tools to look at it. So I did, and I helped. But a lot of OBs, a lot of doctors refer to me, a lot of word of mouth. I work with some professional athletes. I work with just a wide range of people. And I have a big chunk of my practice are people who have been to lots of conventional allopathic medicine doctors, and they just are fed up without getting any solutions to their issues, whether it's
Mhm.
a chronic rash or headaches or hair falling out or ringing in the ears or thyroid's huge, hormones, all the things you mentioned, diabetes, blood sugar dysregulation, and the doctor just kind of gives them a pill. I had a patient today walk in, and I just started working with him. He walked in for his first appointment after 2 weeks. I put him on my detox, and he goes, I just stopped taking my blood pressure medication that he was just put on a couple weeks before I met him. He said, my blood pressure is totally normal now. All his
Wow.
body aches are gone. He doesn't have any digestive issues in 2 weeks.
That's
Just with,
incredible.
yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like to me you're finding things out about your patients that a traditional doctor can't even find out about them.
Mhm. Actually, I have a very big sector of my practice working with doctors as patients.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yeah,
I've seen a lot of unhealthy doctors. It
yeah,
seems to me that, like some of the doctors that I see at a local clinic, they're overweight, they smoke, they drink a lot of coffee, and they do a lot of sitting around.
yeah, that's what they
Yeah,
do.
really good role models.
Yeah, exactly. They're
Yeah.
no different than any of us in, in the population. And and part of it is, I'm working with a physician right now who works 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and then he has 7 days off. So what is that doing to your adrenal glands, right? You're either on the go pedal or you're on the brake pedal. So it's some of it is their training, and they've had this, tough situation, but a lot of it is that they don't have the tools to look. They can't
Mm,
figure out what's going on with their body
yeah.
because all of our labs are predicated on what the insurance company is going to approve.
Mm,
And so
yes.
the insurance company doesn't tell you to look to see if there's fatty liver, or is your bile sludgy? Are you able to digest your fats? They're not looking at that.
Exactly, exactly. So, what are the most common chronic health issues that you're seeing at the moment?
Number one, that we're seeing just a consistent elevated number of people who are dealing with blood sugar dysregulation. There really isn't a day that I go through labs with people that I do not tell them they either have insulin resistance or prediabetes or both. That's a
Wow.
huge one. And that is the driver of disease. That causes third stage inflammation. Inflammation drives disease. So, unfortunately, this is the statistics for 1 out of every three children born in America today will be type 2 diabetic. 1 out of 3.
So,
And when I
why
do,
is this?
because we have carbs at every corner, we have sugar in every coffee, in every soda, in every juice, in every bread, in every pasta, and it's sugar is abound.
Hmm.
We are consuming, at least, this is an old number, but this is from 2018, the average American consumer, the average American person is consuming 152 pounds of sugar per year.
Oh
I don't
my
even,
gosh.
I don't even have a pound. So somebody else is taking my 152 pounds.
Oh my
So
gosh.
we're eating sleeves of cookies and cereal that's filled with sugar. Our coffee addiction is just unconscionable. These mothers take these kids into these coffee shops and they come out with the frappuccinos that is just 63 grams of sugar. Oh, and would you like some whipped cream on that? Sure,
Mm,
why not? Right? And then we
mm.
have blue things and pink things and cookies and everything and donuts and everything. I don't know about you, Marissa, but when I grew up, it was, oh, you're hungry? Don't worry about it. Dinner soon, right? Here,
Yes.
when somebody's hungry, oh my gosh, get them a snack. They got to have a snack. We can't be hungry. It's okay to be hungry for a few hours. We'll be fine, right? Think
Yes.
how many meals do you sit down for that you're hungry for?
Yeah.
Or are
And you
you
appreciate the food then when
right?
you're hungry. You appreciate the meal.
Right.
Yeah, rather than getting in trouble for not finishing it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So we're not hungry. So because we're grazing all day long, our portions are way out of control. They used to be smaller, now they're larger, and we're on the sugar diet. We're eating fruit and carbs and
Mm,
sugar, and that's
yes.
what with pastries and baked goods and everywhere. Chips
Yes.
around, chips for everybody all the time.
Yes. And people aren't burning off that energy either, are they? I mean, would it make a difference if they did burn that energy off, or it doesn't matter?
It would help a little bit. Exercise does help stabilize blood sugar, but you're still probably going to be insulin resistant. When you're asking your pancreas to make a lot of insulin because you're constantly putting in carbs or sugars into your diet, into your
Yeah.
body, the pancreas gets tired. And then the cells, they have these receptors on them and they get hindered. So you become insulin resistant. So I've never seen a conventional doctor ever in my life order labs to see if somebody's insulin resistant. That's the first stage before prediabetes.
Hmm.
So if we can back that out before we get pre-diabetic, wouldn't that be nice?
Absolutely. Prevention is better than cure, the old
Exactly.
cliche saying. So, what are some
Exactly.
of the other diseases that you're seeing at the moment?
A lot of thyroid dysregulation, and that's for a myriad of reasons. We have a lot of heavy metals and mercury and toxins in our system.
Hmm.
So these toxins are really doing a disservice to our endocrine system. So that's our thyroid, our adrenal glands, and our sex hormones. So I see a lot of dysregulation in the adrenal gland, I mean, in the endocrine system. And thyroid's a big deal. And typically, when somebody goes in for thyroid, they're going to give them a medication. They're going to give them a T4. They're not going to give them a T3. They're not even going to test for their T3. They're not going to test to see if they're reversing, to see if their cortisol is affecting it. They're not going to test to see if their hormones are affecting it. So we just get a pill for an ill, but we don't even know if it's really working. And I test
Hmm.
people all the time. And, today I had somebody, I was like, wow, your medication's working. It's rare that I get to say that, but
Yes.
sometimes it does, but most times it doesn't. And we have to look. So
Yeah.
we see a lot of thyroid, and unfortunately, we're going to continue to see a lot of autoimmune because we're just getting worse and worse. A third of autoimmune is genetics, but another major factor, I would say the second in line, is leaky gut. And given the fact that we're eating all these chemicals and processed foods with bad oils in every restaurant, and all the chips and the cereals and the baked goods usually contain bad oils. And here in America, we have a pretty wide range of what's legal. We're approved for 86,000 chemicals,
Hmm.
over 3,000 of which we can eat. We spray our food with chemicals. I have a couple of supplements in my office I use as samples with dyes in them. I don't know if in Australia they let dyes in, but we have one supplement with corn oil, soybean oil, titanium dioxide, which is the worst endocrine disruptor ever, and then 3 dyes. Like that's supposed to help macular degeneration. That's going to give you macular degeneration because
Oh my
it's so
gosh.
highly inflammatory
Yeah.
that it's going to cause inflammation. It's not going to help.
Yeah. So, okay, a couple of questions here. What are the different types of autoimmune diseases that you're seeing? And I
So,
mean, what
so
is an autoimmune disease? to
Yes,
start?
but let's back up there. So
Yeah.
autoimmune basically is when your body is producing a lot of antibodies and it needs to find a place to park. So it's looking for an organ, a gland, or a tissue. So let's rheumatoid arthritis. Those
Mhm,
antibodies are attacking the joints.
mhm.
Hashimoto's thyroiditis, it's attacking the thyroid. Um, Fibromyalgia is attacking the joints. I'm sorry, the muscles. And so on and so on and so on. And there's over 200 different types of autoimmune diseases.
Right.
And again, a third of it's genetics, a big part of it is leaky gut. And then there's, toxins, vitamin D deficiency, a gene mutation I test for all the time called MTHFR. Viruses can trip you up, Epstein-Barr virus, which a lot of people tend to have. It's inactive. It should be inactive, dormant in the body, and then something can happen, like a big stressful event, bad diet, too much sugar, too much alcohol, not enough sleep, and it becomes activated.
Hmm.
And so that can set off. It could dysregulate your thyroid, your blood sugar, and it can spawn up to 33 autoimmune
Oh
diseases.
my gosh. Yep.
Yeah.
So
Those
what's the difference between a good oil and a bad oil then?
Yeah, and just finishing that, and then I'll get to the
Sorry.
oil. Yeah, is when you have these antibodies and it starts to attack, it thinks that it's the enemy, whatever it's attacking. So you need to quell that inflammation. And what happens is your Treg cells, you start to
Mhm.
create what's called Th17, and you get into what's called a cytokine storm. And cytokines are inflammatory molecules. And you're in this state of inflammation. You got a major fire in the basement. So conventional medicine gives you a little squirt gun maybe and says, here, take this pill. This will manage it
Yes.
until it doesn't work, right? Then
Mhm.
we'll give you another pill and then we'll take body parts out. But what I do is I try and put that fire out and really, I'm calling the fire department. I'm getting hoses out and let's get that fire out so that we don't. And then I'm going to go down the root causes and see if we can prevent getting more, because once you have one, it's likely you'll start to accumulate them.
Mhm.
As far as bad oils are concerned, this is a problem. I don't know how it is there, but here, it's cheaper to have low cost oils
Oh yes.
that are highly processed and are highly inflammatory. Those would be canola oil. Most restaurants do
Mhm.
canola oil or some blend of canola oil, vegetable oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, um, soybean oil, corn oil. These are major. They
Really?
cause a lot of inflammation. Yeah.
Oh my
Actually,
gosh.
yeah. And they're in a lot of almost every processed food. And they're in almost every restaurant. And I go to very nice restaurants and I ask, what kind of oil do you use? And I've been to 5-star spas and I've been in the kitchen and say, oh, what kind of oil do you use? And they always usually give me oh, we use a blend. And I say, oh, okay, because then they can say that, they have some olive oil in there, but they
Mhm.
probably have a drop of olive oil and most of it's canola oil because it's cheap. It
Yes.
doesn't have smell, it doesn't have taste, and it causes a lot. It causes trans fats and hydrogen. It's causes inflammation. I'm actually working with a rheumatoid arthritis person right now. We got her completely out of pain, which is amazing. And then it came back a little bit. So I started to ask her what oil she's using at home. And she was using olive oil. And I said, on the stove at high heat? She said, yes. Well, when you use olive oil at high heat, it becomes rancid and inflammatory. It
Oh,
doesn't have a
oh my gosh. For a moment there, I was thinking, I'm doing really well here because I don't have a lot of sugar. And in terms of oils, being Italian, we use olive oil. We don't have all the other oils because our taste buds don't like the other oils.
And olive oil is fantastic oil, but I would use it at low temperature or raw. I use it for every one of my salads.
Hmm.
But when you want high heat, that would be avocado oil, it would be coconut oil, and ghee has a high smoke point as well. So it doesn't go rancid and it doesn't cause inflammation.
Wow, that's incredible. And what are some of the other foods that we need to stay away from? Because I did read somewhere, or I heard somewhere, I've got it written down, that sodas are bad, sugar replacements, and additives. If we don't recognize the names of anything that's on the back of a box or a packet, we shouldn't buy it. Are they the kinds of things that you believe also?
Oh, absolutely. So think of it this way. Our bodies were created whenever that was, I don't know, millions of years ago or thousands of years
Mm,
ago. And at that time, our goal as living organisms is, I mean, always from that day on, is to survive and procreate. So we were able to eat things that were crawling on the ground and spreading from the earth. That's what we did.
mm,
And then years later, the Industrial Revolution came and we started to have chemicals, lots and lots and lots of chemicals. So, as I mentioned, the FDA has approved 86,000 chemicals for us to use. So, we're eating them, we're putting them in our hair, our shampoo, our conditioner, our nail polish, our deodorant, right in through the skin, our perfumes, the dry cleaners, and the chairs, the anti retardant, fire retardant chemicals. I mean, there's chemicals everywhere, right? And
mm.
so we in America, we spray most of our soil, all of our conventional soil with glyphosate, which is a weed killer because they don't, and a pesticide. They don't want to have pesticides eating their profits. So they're just putting in it's glyphosate. We have glyphosate in our rain, and glyphosate does a tremendous damage to the body. So
Mm.
what I say to people is, we have this body that was born to eat food. And
Yeah.
so to people I work with, imagine that your body's just like a sneaker factory. You've got all the equipment to make a sneaker. So I know if I give you leather and rubber and canvas, we're going to get a sneaker. But if I say, let's put some cell phone parts in your sneaker factory, what would happen?
Mm.
I mean, our equipment would break, right? We'd have
Yes.
to do a cell phone factory to put those cell phone parts in there in that factory to make a cell phone. So what happens is we're putting a lot of cell phone parts in our sneaker factory. So we are breaking down, we are deteriorating, and we're a mess. And then we just
Mm.
keep eating processed foods, and we just keep getting worse. Then we take more medication, and we plug a hole in the front of the boat, but three more pop in the back, and then we just keep doing this chase,
Mm.
right?
Mm. Absolutely. I read the book many years ago by Louise Hay, You Can Heal Your Body. And for me, when I read that, I think it was back in the late 80s,
Mhm.
it was mind blowing for me. And I was in a place, fortunately, that I was open to all these ideas that she was proposing. And one thing I'll never forget is her description of dis-ease. She
Mhm.
calls it dis-ease. So, how much of this do you believe is being exacerbated by stress and anxiety and all the issues that come along with being under the pump all the time as a race at the moment?
100%. 100% is being affected by that. And there's different types of stress. So our adrenal glands that
Mm,
sit right on top of our kidneys, there are stress modulators. So they handle whatever stress is coming at you. So it could be work, family, environment, food stress, and toxins or whatever it is, relationship stress, whatever stress you have. I
mm,
mean, it's natural to have stress, but chronic stress, the way we have it now, chronically working, chronically eating bad foods, chronically breathing in pesticides and eating pesticides, this is a chronic assault on our adrenal glands, and there's only so much they can do, and they give out. I test people all the time and they give out. They say, I'm done. I cannot handle this workload. And then
yes.
people walk in here, they crawl in here exhausted.
Sorry for laughing. I can kind of relate to that right at the moment. I just go,
Yeah,
I am so overwhelmed right now. And it's a horrible feeling.
right. We do it to ourselves too, but it's
We
our
do it.
society.
We do it to ourselves. We overcommit. It's like, oh, we have half an hour gap there. Oh, we better fill that half an hour. See, I'm not very good at relaxing. I do have little practices during the day that kind of settle me down, but oh my gosh, overcommitment is a big thing for me. So how
Yeah.
do we start reversing some of these medical problems? Is it different by the issue, or is it different by the person, or a combination of both?
It's it's usually always different by the person because depending on what your labs look like, your health status, what's going on inside, right? Do we have parasites? Do we have, pathogens, whatever that is? So that depends upon the person. But everyone would benefit by just changing what they eat. Everybody, no matter what your condition is. So read your labels, right? Notice what is coming into the building. Be really picky, right? We're really picky about what we put on the outside of our body.
Mm-hmm.
Really not that picky about what goes on the inside.
Yeah.
So I read every label. And as you said, if you can't pronounce it, if you don't know what it is, don't eat it.
Mm.
Right?
Yes.
Don't eat it. And so if we just ate real food, if we start putting in sneaker parts, right? Leather, rubber, and canvas into our machinery, we're going to do great. So animal protein, vegetables, sweet potato and yams, good fats, eggs, nuts, seeds, avocado oil, olive oil, those are the things that are going to make you thrive. So that's what I would say is just minimize or get rid of as many toxic foods and bad oils that you possibly can. I don't know how it is over there, but here we're having a full crisis as far as cooking. I have three brothers, and not one, they're all the cooks in the family, not one of the wives cook. And so it's the husbands who are cooking, which there's nothing wrong with that.
Yes.
But they're kind of slapping it together. And what happened to the people in the kitchen who were cooking? We now order in. We go out. We don't cook. You know, I looked at a kid I'm working with right now. He's in college, and I looked at him and I said, "Well, do you never eat home for lunch?" And he kind of looked at me like, "Is that even an option?" He just goes
Wow.
out or orders in. And
Wow.
with all the conveniences of postmating and door dashing, people just order in.
Yes, I
And
know. I know. See, I love a good leftover for lunch. I love leftovers. It sound some people might go yuck, but I don't enjoy eating sandwiches from a store, or
me
I
too.
don't eat fast food. And I just love having a protein in a salad, something that's left over. My husband tends to barbecue, and we tend to have barbecue protein with a
Great,
salad most evenings. And
great.
then I just eat the leftovers for lunch. But I really enjoy that. I couldn't think of anything worse than having a bag of hot chips or fries, as you call them. I would be asleep by
Yeah,
about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It would
uh,
make me so lethargic.
yeah.
And I find even having bread at lunch, I have a big come down from bread. By about 3 o'clock, I find that, I don't know, is that your insulin levels start to drop, or it's
So
doing
if blood
something?
sugar levels are spiking when you eat the bread, and if you
Mm,
eat fat or protein or fiber, it will lessen that spike, but it will still spike it. You know, if you put
mm,
jelly on that bread, that's just going to, skyrocket you to the ceiling. So you want to eat your protein first. You want to have your vegetable carbohydrates next, and then any kind of sweet or bread kind of thing that would be last. It's going
oh,
to have the least impact on your blood sugar spike.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And if
Okay.
you have apple cider vinegar before you even have that carb, it's going to lessen that spike.
Apple cider vinegar.
Yeah.
Okay, so does that neutralize what
Yeah.
that food is going to do?
It helps that spike not go so high. So I would
Okay.
put in a little bit of water and give it a good chug, and then have your sweet or your carb, and it's going to lessen your spike for
Hmm.
sure.
And I'm very fascinated in your book, Food Frame. You offer a roadmap for people to follow, and you provide information about the best suited eating lifestyle for one's health
Mhm.
status to optimize their wellness. And there are different opinions, different philosophies on foods. There are different diets, and we're being bombarded by the media every single day. And if you watch the morning show in the morning, they will tell you a different story to what the evening news tells you. I mean, it's so confusing. And then there are all these different diets. And you go through these in your book, which you have beside you, Food Frame. So, do you want to talk about those diets? Because you say that some of them actually, there are benefits and pitfalls for each, depending on what your health status is?
Correct. So, as I was mentioning earlier, I started to customize things because, we all had that new book that came out and everybody was reading it. And we said, oh, this is the best. And we went on that eating program, whether it was a diet or an eating plan, and we'd get all these people who would just thrive on it. And then we'd get people who just didn't. Oh, I can't do that. That didn't work for me. I can't get into ketosis, or I can't eat all that, whatever it is. And so they're not thriving on that. So what I realized is we should be eating to our health status. So I start people off with my detox, which is a 2-week program. And you're cleaning out the liver, you're cleaning out the blood, you're optimizing the function of the body, and you are taking out the trash, which is really important. So you're having collagen shakes twice a day, you're having protein, fat, and fiber, and then you're eating food, protein, fat, and fiber, so that you're satiated. You really are not that hungry. And I mean, like I had today, this guy who came in who just got off his blood pressure medications that is normalized. So a lot of things, he doesn't have any joint pain. I mean, all those things went away for him in 2 weeks. Now he just got his labs back. He's got a lot more work to do, but we had a really major turnaround just by cleaning out his body and giving him a little bit of bumpers on the food. And so after that, I recommend people take my FOODFRAME quiz, or unless you know what your diagnosis is, but take your FOODFRAME quiz so that you know what your health status is and what's best for you.
Yes.
So after that, in the book, I highlight the 6 different diet types or eating lifestyles that I use 99% of the time. Occasionally I have to go rogue and do something different, a candida diet or things like that. But these are the mainstream diet that everybody pretty much falls into. So I'll break them down for you because I do have
yes, please.
Who's best for and who this is not a great fit for.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have all the ingredient, all the foods that you should enjoy and all the foods that you should avoid. So the first one, if there's any blood sugar dysregulation, I'm going to recommend 2. I'm going to recommend Paleo diet, which stands for the Paleolithic diet. And this is basically created on the basis of the caveman. And its philosophy is that whoever created us, whenever that was, we were eating the foods that were available to us, and that we should still be eating that. Those are the parts of our machinery. That's where we thrive. And so it talks a lot about quality and meats that are grass-fed and grass-finished and not filled with antibiotics and growth hormones, and pasture-raised poultry and wild fish, and then vegetables and good fats and sweet potato yams, things like that. And I find that to be the most broadest appeal. Most people do really, really well with paleo, and you can stay on paleo for a lifetime. So it's really easy. It's easy to travel. It's just easy to function on that. And that goal is to decrease systemic inflammation and increase good gut health and stabilize blood sugars. So I love paleo. I think it's the easiest one, and it's the one I use the most. Mm-hmm. Then there's keto, and keto is short for ketosis. And when the body gets into the state of ketosis, it's basically when you are switching your fuel source from sugar or carbs that we all do. Instead, we use fat as our fuel source. We're burning ketones so that we're burning fat for fuel. And this is a very high fat eating lifestyle. So 75 to 85% of your daily calories should be in some form of fat. So a lot of animal protein, eggs, cheese, cream, butter, bacon, all of that stuff, because you have to get into the state of ketosis if you can. I was never able to without exogenous ketones. And so you need to have a lot of fat to sustain you, and then very little carbs, less than 5%. So no more than 20 net carbs generally for people to, or else they'll get out of the state of ketosis. Mm-hmm. And the challenge with keto is that it's very difficult to get a lot of fiber in because all the fiber sources have carbs. So you can't have too much. So I am a big fan of keto for people with major blood sugar dysregulation. If you walk in and you've got diabetes and insulin resistance, I'm going to suggest keto if you are eligible. So people who are not eligible of keto would be somebody who has a gallbladder that's been taken out, that it would not be a good fit for you. I test stool tests, so I look for steatocrit to see if you have any fat malabsorption. If you do, that's not right for you. I look at your GGT, your how sludgy your bile is, if you can digest fats. So if that's high, that's not for you. If you have gallstones or anything like that, this is not for you. And a lot of women don't do as well as men. Men tend to thrive with keto. And people who have chronic stress, there it is again, don't tend to perform very well and they're not really able to get into the state of ketosis. So there's a lot of exceptions to that. And I don't recommend keto for a long period of time. I recommend it for 3 months and then get off for a bit, take a break and get some carbs in there a bit. And then a month or two later, you can get back onto ketosis. But again, not everybody does. So I would suggest taking a urine test to make sure in the mornings that you are in the state of ketosis.
Right.
And then I have the AIP, that is the Autoimmune Protocol. And that is what I would recommend for anybody with autoimmune disease, whether you have it, whether you have 1, 2, 3, or anybody who's afraid of getting it, who has an immediate family who has a lot of it. I would recommend the Autoimmune Protocol for you. This is also an elimination diet, 30 to 90 days, very strict. It takes paleo and it removes a lot from paleo. So we're taking out nightshades. Those are potatoes, tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, goji berries. They're very high in what's called lectins, which I'll get to in a minute, and they cause a lot of inflammation. So we take out nuts, seeds, eggs. Lots of vegetables with high lectins are removed a little bit in paleo, but you're having animal protein, vegetables, organ meats, no coffee, no chocolate, no alcohol. So it's pretty strict, but I have to say that 100% of the time that people have complied, including myself, we see amazing results with a good AIP diet. And that is really to decrease your systemic inflammation and increase your good. It's going to also decrease your blood sugars, most likely with that. And then once you get off the AIP, if you are autoimmune, I recommend the low lectin or the paleo program. And lectins are basically under this umbrella that we call anti-nutrients. And we all have, as living organisms, we have a way to cope with danger. So our goal, as I mentioned, is to survive and procreate for any living organism. And so humans, we have the ability to flee, kick, bite, scream, yell, call 911. Plants don't have that ability, so they have what I call a hard candy shell around the germ or the seed. And they say, well, if you're going to break me down, I'm going to do whatever I can to survive and procreate. So you know who you are. It's the people who eat the hummus or the beans and they bloat because they can't break it down, right? They don't have enough acid in their stomach to break it down. But those are foods that are very high in lectins. So it would be great for you to continue to be on a low lectin diet to make sure you're not driving your inflammation. And then we have the low FODMAP, and low FODMAP is great. And FODMAP it's an acronym, and it stands for fermented oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. And in plain English, these are carbohydrates that absorb water. I know I'm throwing a lot of information.
I know, I'm listening so carefully because I don't want to miss anything. This is really interesting.
It's all in my book, in case you do. But these are carbohydrates that absorb water. So these are for the people who are chronic bloaters, right? They have chronic bloating every day. It might be coupled with chronic diarrhea or chronic constipation or alternating. And these are people who typically have what's called SIBO, small intestinal bacteria overgrowth. And they may also have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, or irritable bowel disease. And so low FODMAP would be perfect for them.
That sounds like it should be me. I bloat so easily.
Try it. Are you taking a digestive enzyme?
No, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, digestive enzymes we have pancreatic enzymes, hydrochloric acid. We have all these digestive enzymes that we produce and excrete from the time we're born to the time we age. But as we age, we produce and excrete less and less. So it's really important. I usually say anybody 45 or older, you're going to get a digestive enzyme. I have plenty of 25-year-olds on them because if they're bloating and they can't digest and they have these issues, they're having heartburn, acid reflux, they need a digestive enzyme to help break down that food.
Hmm.
So
Is
my
that
enzyme.
like, what about, because I have probiotics, is that the kind of thing, or is that something else?
Probiotics are what feeds the good guys and the bacteria in the microbiome. And digestive enzymes are what gives the acid to help break down that food. If we don't have a lot of acid in our stomach, we typically get what do you call it? Heartburn, acid
Yes.
reflux, GERD,
Yes.
and we can't break down that food. So what do? We call in our friend methanoBacteria, say our methane gas production, and we call in the gas so that we can help break it down. And
Oh,
that's probably what you're doing. So I would try that first to see how you do. My enzyme max has all the pancreatic enzymes, hydrochloric acid, and oxbile for fat malabsorption. Not a lot of digestive enzymes have all those, so I would look for something that has at least something like that, or enzyme max would work. I love my enzyme max. I will not leave home without it.
Enzyme Max. I'm writing this down.
And so low FODMAP is also very strict. The stricter you are at the beginning, the better off you'll be. And it is a 30 to 90-day elimination. And you can do this all the time if you wanted to. I mean, I wouldn't live on it, but a lot of people do. You could. I would get to the root cause of why you need to. But if we get to the root cause and you do have some stuff going on, then fix it. But low FODMAP would definitely be a way to starve that bacteria that's parked itself in the small intestine rather than the large.
Yes, yes. And what about vegan?
And that's the last one, is
Oh,
vegan, vegetarian. And I'm not an enormous fan of vegetarian or vegans because I really firmly believe that we need some animal protein. I am a former vegan myself, and when I was eating vegan, I wasn't eating bread, pasta, ice cream, Cheerios, none of that. But I was actually eating real plants, a lot of plants, and and plant-based proteins. And I had hummus and lentils and garbanzo beans and black beans. I basically lived off of those. And as I did my blood work through the years, I watched my blood sugars go up and up and up. And it's a lot of carbs.
mhm.
So I don't think that it is the best for everyone, but there are some people that may thrive in it. And there's a lot of people who culturally or religiously don't eat meat. So I talk about what different types of vegetarians there are, and what to do, and how to best thrive being a vegetarian.
Yes, because I heard from another, well, he was a nutritionist, that the concern is that with a lot of vegans, they're eating a vegan alternative, like or a meat alternative, I should say. You go to McDonald's or you go wherever it is, and they have these vegan burgers. No one knows what's in there.
They're filled with inflammatory oils and
Mm-hmm.
soy. That's not going to help your thyroid. So it's a processed product, just like everything else, right? It's just a junk food that's a processed product. So yeah, there's different types of vegetarians. I talk about this in the book. There's the vegetarians who eat pasta and bread and Oreos and Cheerios and Coke and French fries. And then there's a vegetarian who actually eats a lot of vegetables and plant-based proteins. So it's really important, if you are vegetarian, to make sure you're getting fuel for your body and not just processed crap that's
Mm-hmm.
vegetarian.
Hmm. Yes. I just want to now just touch on quickly in regards to detox. You did mention about the detoxification. And I think with a lot of people, that's really scary, the thought of cutting everything out that they really enjoy. Is there a simple way to detox? Like, if just say, sometimes when I go away, for example, and I come back, I've been overindulging in so many things, foods I wouldn't normally eat, more alcohol than I would normally consume. I come back feeling a bit sluggish, and I often say, I just feel like I want to clean out my body. What is there something that you recommend that is really easy and a simple way to do that without cutting out everything that you love?
Yeah, so the difference between my detox and something like that is that I have amino acids and antioxidants that open up pathways 1 and 2 for liver detoxification and blood detoxification, and it optimizes the organs. Now you're talking a little bit more of a reset than a detox.
Oh,
And,
okay, yes.
and a reset would be great. I mean, just stop anything that has a label. eat foods from the farm, right? So cow and fish and chicken and lamb or whatever it is that you like, and then vegetables. Eat some sweet potatoes, some eggs, some nuts, seeds, things like that, and don't have anything that has labels. So if they have labels, they're processed, they're from a factory. And I go to the natural food show every year, and there's thousands, hundreds of thousands of people and hundreds of thousands of booths, and it gets bigger and bigger every year. They keep taking all the hotels right around them because we have so many healthy junk food. And I
Yes.
remind people, this is still not from a farm. This is from a factory, and it might have clean ingredients, but it's still from a factory. So I think we have to be cognizant of how many processed foods we're eating. And I just think that's very important. So, and it's not realistic to say you're never going to eat any cookies or crackers or tortillas or whatever it is, but look at the ingredients and just really minimize that. Make sure your oils are clean and decrease your systemic inflammation.
So other than the digestive enzymes, are there other kinds of supplements we should be taking on a daily basis?
I don't work with anybody who's not taking vitamin D unless they're really high, and then they'll go
Ooh.
every other day or something like that. But vitamin D is critically important. We cannot make bone without it. We need it for thyroid, brain, gut, heart, anti-cancer, anti-aging. I mean, it affects everything. And so vitamin D, even though we live in sunny California, a ton of people, almost everybody is deficient. And I saw the lowest one today at 13. I've never seen that low. And so we really need it. And everybody's on a vitamin D with me, my D3 Ultra with K, because you need that for absorption. And then everybody is in my office is taking B Ultra, which is a B vitamin. Talk about stress. When we're stressed, we eat up all our B vitamins in our intestinal lining. It's critical for RNA, DNA, but B vitamins are really, really important. There's a gene mutation that I test for called MTHFR. That is a very common gene mutation. I have it, both of my kids have it. It's 100% genetic, and it makes you unable to methylize either your B12 and or your folate. So I test everybody to find out which alleles they have, but I give them my B Ultra, which is a complex B, and it's all in methylcobalamin form so they can absorb it. And those are the two ones that everybody's on. Now, the Fab Five I do for inflammation is vitamin D, my Omega Max, those omega-3 fatty acids, glutathione, our master antioxidant, turmeric max, major for inflammation, as is resveratrol. And that comes with quercetin too. So those are my Fab Five for anybody with major inflammation or in autoimmune disease states. And then I have various things like gut reboot, which is really helpful for gut repair. If you have leaky gut, I use gut reboot all the time. And then I have gut sweep, which is really helpful. It's a binder and remover of antigens. So very helpful for anybody who has constipation, things like that. I have a myriad of supplements, and so it depends on what's best for you.
Reminds me of the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Lisa Rinna, one of the housewives, she walks around with a little bag full of all these different colored pills and sits there and has them with a meal.
Yeah, she's a supplement taker.
Yes, she definitely is. Is there anything else from your book that you would like to share with us?
I'm a big person on thyroid, and thyroid is really important. So I talk about the breakdown of the thyroid testing. I just released a course called Achieving Optimal Thyroid Health. And
Yes.
it's really critical because so many people suffer with thyroid, whether you have nodules or a thyroidectomy or you're hyper or hypo, and it's just always changing. And it's really important to get it right, not just for weight loss, but for every part of the body. The thyroid affects most systems in the body. So it's really important to make sure that your thyroid is good. I go through a lot of the labs and what I test for. I have a lot of information on what labs I use. And it's just packed full of information, along with some really fun and easy recipes for each different food frame.
Yes. And the thing is, too, just talking about thyroid problems, most people don't realize that they have a thyroid problem.
Correct. Because
Yeah.
their doctor asks them for TSH. But
Mm.
yes, people have a thyroid problem,
Yeah.
correct?
So what's your mission?
I want to turn on the light bulb for every human being on this planet to say that how food reacts to them and how food can be our helper. It really is the best medicine we have, and we really need to be cognizant of what we're eating and where these chemicals are coming from, and really detoxify and just decrease our toxic load. We're getting sicker and sicker and sicker and fatter and fatter and fatter, and this processed quick grab and go drive through order in is not doing us any favors at all. We should reverse this, get back to sitting at a big table with our loved ones and making food from the earth, and then we will do a lot better. It will be great for our cortisol, it'll be great for our guts, and that is the message I would love to give to the world.
Yes.
That's my life's work.
Yes. And what are you up to next?
Oh gosh, I'm just doing a ton of speaking engagements and presentations and TV appearances, and I run a very, very big practice, so it's very, very busy. And I love watching people heal. I just don't think there's anything cooler.
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing an amazing job, Risa.
Thank you so much.
Yes, and we're going to share all your information in the show notes where people can buy your book, where they can find you, they can go to your website, where they can find you on social. We will share all of that with the listeners in the show notes. So if people want to learn more, they certainly can. This has been so fascinating. And I wish that we could spend longer on here because I personally have a million questions. So I probably will reach out to you at some stage. But thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you taking time out of that very busy schedule that I know you have at the moment, with especially the launch of your book. You have a lot of engagements at the moment. So thank you so much. And
Thank you so much for having me, and I'm happy to help.
yeah, and wishing you all the very best in the future.
Thank you, and you the same.
Okay, thank you, Risa. Take care.
You too.
Bye.